All right, what is going on, everybody? Justin here with the Miles Matter, and today we are going to do a shoe showdown between the Adidas Agravic Speed Ultra and the Hoka Tecton X2. Two powerhouses in the carbon-plated trail racing shoe category. This is a true carbon plate, whereas this is TPE rods going through the middle. I'm going to talk about what I like between both of them, what I didn't like, and if it came down to it, which one I would choose, which one I would spend my money on. So let's get into it. All right, to start out, we got a 8mm drop versus a 5mm drop. I did have to go down a half size in the Adidas. Just be aware of that. My true men's 9.5 fit way too big, especially on my smaller foot. Where this is a true 9.5 men's for me. Beautiful lockdown. One of my favorite uppers of all time and one of the best fitting shoes of all time. As far as weight goes, the Adidas men's 9 is coming in at 9.2 ounces. Whereas the Hoka Tecton X2, we got 9.6 ounces. So a little bit heavier. All right, if we get into uppers first, I will say, as I just said, the Matrix upper on the Tecton X2 has been one of my favorites. It has been such a beautiful lockdown, very comfortable. It is on the wider side, but it's not too bad, too wide. It still does have like a little bit of that race day snugger fit. But for someone with wide feet, I don't really have any issues. Whereas the Adidas, definitely a little bit wider, and as I said, had to go down half a size. But once you do get this locked down, and I did have heel slippage in this shoe, not bad, but I had to lace up all the way. I don't like to do a runner's knot. But yeah, once I laced up the last hole, then everything was good to go. But if I'm going with a shoe for the better lockdown and I have to pick, I'm going with Tecton X2. Let's get into the midsoles between the two. If you have watched my single review on this, I think this is one of the most funnest rides I've experienced, especially within a trail shoe. But this shoe, just the ride of it, the foam, man, there hasn't been a lot like this. But I will say too that the Tecton X2, this ride is a very fun ride. And I think the shoe as a whole is a very fast, nimble shoe. But what I will say is Pro Fly, especially within the mocks and stuff like this, has never really impressed me. I wouldn't say that the foam is overly impressive in the Pro Fly, but sometimes it's not a bad thing. And I think how the shoe comes together as a whole makes this a really fun shoe. Whereas the Adidas, this is just like, what the fuck am I running in? This is pretty wild. But I will say, if you are somebody with stability issues, this is the shoe I would pick. This is a very low platform, wide platform. And even though this is wide, the heel is very narrow. You got this guy is very narrow. For me, I'm a mid-foot, forefoot striker, so this is fine for me. But even here, like as you land laterally immediately, because of this cutout right here, you still tend to kind of shift from side to side. And I don't know if that's like to help you maneuver better out on the trails, but I think it's definitely something they need to address in the next version and maybe just close this up. Like, I don't know if this needs to be exposed, and it would give you more stability laterally immediately and really change this shoe. So something I think they really need to think about. I'm gonna give the midsole and the ride to the Adidas, but again, this ride is very intense and it will, at least for me, kind of blew out my calves, especially on the climbs. So it's just something to keep in mind. As far as the outer goes, Continental is probably second best next to Vibram. I will say the first time I ran in this shoe was 10 or 13 miles on snow. And these lugs, while on a dry day, they're not bad. I think for something like snow or more muddy conditions, they're gonna need more bite. You're gonna want more bite. Same with these guys, they're not that deep, but as far as traction goes, Vibram is absolute top dog in my opinion. This exposed block of foam here, I don't like that. You know, I think it should be way more covered. Yeah, but traction on both of them is going to be really good. And again, they're not the deepest lugs, but they're also not made for that. So traction, I would say they're pretty even. When it comes to trail plated racing shoe, they're made for a very niche specific category, for a very niche specific type of person. And if you're like me, I'm not racing trails. If I'm doing ultras, it's just to complete them, to have fun. It's not like I need like top performance. If anything, I want comfort over performance for a long ultra. So my biggest gripe with these shoes is, does the ride and the enjoyment I get from them, because they are fun shoes, especially this shoe, if it works for you, I don't think it's going to work for a lot of people. But does that cancel out the price point? Because what I could get in seemingly both of these rides, obviously maybe not the fun factor, but just a shoe that does what it needs to do, I could probably get in like my Nike Terra Kyger 9. Obviously not the grip component, but I mean, that's a fun shoe in my opinion, that if I'm not racing or I don't need top performance wise, like, I don't know if I want to dish out the money, you know? So even when I got this shoe and every run I do, I always question like, does that $225 price point like justify? Do I feel like an asshole for buying this shoe and this shoe? Whereas if I'm buying like a carbon plated shoe for marathons and I know come race day, like I'm going for it, I don't feel like an asshole. I feel like that's warranted. Whereas these are just for fun. So I guess what I'll say about that is like, if you have the money and you could justify spending the money and it's not hurting your pockets, go for it. If money's tight, I probably wouldn't shell out money on these shoes. If you're not using them for that specific reason, you could get shoes that do maybe not exactly what they do, but close to what they do for half the price point. When it comes down to which shoe would I pick, honestly, it really depends. Again, if I had stability issues, I'm gonna go with the Tecton. If I'm looking for just a fun ride and something really fast and a lot of energy return, I'm going with the Adidas. I'll say this, the energy you return does not even come close to comparison in the mock. But if you're someone who could just generate speed and you don't need all this tech to give back to you, then this is just like a fucking awesome shoe. They're both really good. If it came down to which shoe I'd pick, I've thought about it a lot and I really have a hard time deciding, but my gut is telling me the Tecton X too. I like the stability in the shoe. I like that maybe it's not as fun as the Adidas and doesn't give me as much energy return, but overall this feels better. I don't always love a shoe that has so much tech going on in it, which this does. This feels wild on my foot. And I feel like if I need to confidently bomb a trail, especially a more technical trail here on the East Coast, like I could do that in this shoe and feel comfortable. So again, I may be having a funner time and just for like, you know, when I want a little more pep in my step and I'm feeling dead or want to have fun on the trail, maybe I'll pick this. But if I'm just looking for a shoe that's reliable, that's fun, between the two, I'm probably going to go with this guy. And I'll probably pick this way more over the Adidas. Ooh, that was a tough one. I hope that helped. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you have both shoes, what you guys think, what you would pick. If you love or hate either of them, please let me know in the comments down below. As always, you could comment. I will get back to you. Feel free to like the video if you did. If you don't like it. Subscribe if you want to. Now that school's done for the year, I'm going to put way more shoe review videos out. And if you made it this far, again, thank you. I appreciate it, and I hope this helped kind of narrow down decisions for you. But until next time, peace.